Thank you everybody who's joining us so far. We're going to give another couple minutes until we get started here, so just hold tight. All right, we are at the top of the hour, so we're going to get started here with some introductions, and I'm sure some people will pile in as we continue to get started, but we'll get everything going. So welcome everybody. My name is Jonah Wish. I'm the program director here at the National Cybersecurity Center. We're very excited today to have some partners from Uccs for our Morning Byte of Cyber webinar series that we host, on the third and fourth Thursday of every month on a variety of topics. And we're very excited to talk about workforce development here today. The NCC is a nonprofit based in Colorado Springs, right across the street from UCCS, and we share some buildings as well. So we have a very great relationship with the university there. We at the NCC work on a bunch of different programs, all surrounding cybersecurity training, awareness, and education. Our department here in the NCC, called the Colorado Cyber Resource Center, we focus on assisting with training, education, awareness, workforce development for some of our more under-resourced types of communities, whether it be local governments, small, medium-sized businesses, kind of the areas within cybersecurity that need a little extra assistance because cybersecurity is such a new developing field that needs more resources for certain organizations to push forward. So I'm excited here to have two guests on our webinar today, both from UCCS. We have Dean Markell, the Dean of the College of Business at UCCS, and Julia Costin, the Apprenticeships Director for the CCAP program. So I'll hand it off to both of you to do some introductions, and we'll get going.
Thanks, Jonah. So I'm Karen Markell. I'm Dean of the College of Business, and I've been in that role now 2 years, and I see we've got folks from all over the country. So I'm really excited to share with you what I've been learning about building the cyber workforce pipeline. And with that, I'll introduce Julia.
Hi, thank you, Dean Markell. Thank you, Jonah. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I'm Julia Costin, and I'm the Associate Director at College of Business. And just like Dean Markell, for the past 2 years or so, we've been working together with the employers, local community, and other organizations to develop initiatives to address the cybersecurity skills gap. We worked on our programs, updated some of the programs, included new ways of training talent. So I'm happy to be here and share our experience with you all.
Excellent. And one more thing to note before we get started, this is a special presentation for me, just something I'm excited to be a part of. I myself am a master's student at UCCS in the cybersecurity management track. So this is a topic that's very pertinent to myself, and excited to be a part of it within this partnership. So we'll get started here, and I'll kick off the panel here with a question to get the slides going. So this one's for Julia here. So for many years, we've been hearing from employers, industry reports on the challenges to find skilled cybersecurity workforce participants. Julia, based on your experience and the trends you see, could you provide a brief overview of the current cybersecurity skills gap and some of the challenges organizations are facing when they're recruiting talent?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Jonah. I'm just going to pull up my slides. I'm a visual person, so I think images speaks louder than words. But if you look here at the current cybersecurity workforce demand, we are somewhere at over 700,000 jobs available right now within the US market, right? So those are kind of scary numbers, but we didn't get here overnight, right? Like if you look for the last year trends, we're somewhere like at 500,000 jobs available, right? And what are some of the contributing factors to this cybersecurity skills gap? Meeting with a lot of the hiring managers and industry professionals, as well as company owners, the challenges alone was not the availability of talent. It was number one is that companies are looking for the rock stars. They're looking for those unicorn talent. They come in, plug and play. They're ready to start the work. But we didn't get here. The industry has not been developed by professionals that they had the skills, they had the job experience required by the industry. I think everybody that's currently working in cybersecurity, they transitioned from different industries, different role, and they found themselves working in an information security, cybersecurity type of role. What is interesting is that organizations are struggling to recruit talent for their cybersecurity roles. And then 52% are struggling to retain the talent. And what are some of the contributing factors to that? I think it's most importantly, we have to look at our current hiring practices. What are the requirements for the jobs that we have, right? If you're looking right now at some of the job description for cybersecurity professionals, it requires somewhere between 3 and 5 years, right? So how can we get new talent within the industry if they don't have this, they don't meet the experience requirement? And then all of those factors contribute to bigger issues for the organizations and challenges, right? So if you look at the report that was done by Fortinet, 80% of organizations, they responded that the lack of the skills contributed to the data breaches for their organizations. And because of those data breaches, it resulted in a loss of revenue and fines, right? So we're finding I wanted to call like it's a vicious circle, right? Like once you don't have the talent, it affects your organizations throughout. It affects your revenue, your relationships with your vendors, with your clients, and then your organizational growth. I think if you look at the businesses that got hit by a ransomware attack or any type of cybersecurity attack, if they're small enough and they cannot recover, they go out of business within the first 6 months. So this is the current state of cybersecurity workforce demand. And then I'm just going to leave you with one last thought. If you're looking at the current Trellix survey done, over a third of cybersecurity professionals are planning to change their jobs. And that's not because they're going to transition into a different role with another organization. They're going to exit the industry altogether because we have a huge burnout on the cybersecurity teams, and they just, want to do something else for themselves.
Excellent. Thank you, Julia. I'm going to keep this conversation going with a similar question. So tell me about some of the pain points, or expand on some of the pain points that employers are facing, and how are you at UCCS working to support them when they're building their cyber talent pipeline?
Yeah, so some of the pain points, I'm sure that a lot of cybersecurity professionals or hiring managers that are attending today's webinars are kind of the same, right? Like, where can we get the new talent to fill our job demand? How can we train our talent without putting a lot of pressures on our existing teams, right? Because if you're currently looking at your organization and try to recruit new talent, someone else in a senior role may be responsible to train this new talent and get them up to speed. Now their workload is already full, right? So they may not have the time at hand or the experience, not necessarily to teach them on systems, but the overall academic background to kind of build their cybersecurity fundamentals. So how are we building new talent? And then what are the best way to promote our jobs and get our company a name out there within the certain underrepresented groups, right? Like for the latest years, we've seen a lot of talks around cybersecurity being not a very diverse field, and how they can establish partnerships with the community organizations to diversify their workforce. A lot of the questions come around, while organizations want to change and they're looking at ways on how they changes, but it's very hard for them to adapt. The larger the organizations, the harder for them to adapt and change their current hiring practices. And when we meet with them, it's basically we have a conversation like, tell me what are you doing and where do you see, what are your current needs and how can we work together to help you, right? And we always recommend them to look at their current job descriptions and understand that sometimes the talent is just not there with those certain requirements. But if they are looking at reducing the requirements for entry-level roles, perhaps they have better chances to recruit new talent into the pipeline and focus more on the transferable skills, not necessarily on the hard skills. Hard skills are something that, organizations can train within the first 6 to 8 months of somebody's being hired. They can train in-house. They can use organizations like ourselves to train their candidates on hard skills. But what are the critical transferable skills they're looking for? They're looking for certain sector knowledge. Like, for example, someone that's working in a healthcare, they have to deal with HIPAA requirements. They have that previous understanding of the industry. So now you just build the hard skills. Or they're looking for when there's no transferable skills, look for the soft skills, right? What are the right soft skills, the values they have? Are they in alignment with your current organizations, with your team? Are they a fit? I think there's a lot of talent out there that's available, and it's exciting to work in a field, right? There's been a lot of awareness around cybersecurity careers for the past couple of years, and we all wanted to be part of the industry. It's just very hard to get in with those current requirements.
So next question that I'll throw at you, talk to me about some of the recommendations you have for employers.
Oh yeah, so we've met, I think over 2 years, I think over 200 companies. We met representatives anywhere from like HR departments, company owners. And right now, if you're looking at my slide here, of the minimum requirements. So most of the demand is on a middle skills gap, right? So how do we get talent level to the middle skills gap? That's a very important questions for organizations to address when they're looking at developing their talent pipelines. And look internally, right? What is your current employees in different departments, not necessarily in your security or IT department? They have those transferable skills. Then you can work with universities that can, curate programs to upskill some of their technical skills, and then move them up into the organization, right? I think that's one of the reasons employers are leaving an organization. And that is because there's no opportunity for them to grow. Sometimes you reached the plateau in your career and then you want a different challenge. And the challenge might not be in your industry, right? It might be something different. You want to learn something new. And look for this talent. Also work very, very closely with local organizations like universities, community colleges. You have a lot of workforce development. They have access to the local talent, and depending on what is your future strategy, try to identify the talent early on before the hiring need is there, right? A lot of organizations, they have talent requirements, and the job gets posted for minimum, like I think it was like four months or so before it gets filled, or sometimes this goes longer depending on the skills required. And that's not something that's sustainable long-term. Imagine, like, how can you be productive as an organization if you have jobs out there, they're open longer than 4 to 5 months? And that's a cost to the organizations, right? And that cost, you can justify the cost of having jobs on field to actually train your talent with that budget instead of just looking for those unicorn talent. Because I think unicorn talent is out there, exists, but then there's also unicorn companies. So everyone knows where they want to work and they want to establish, next move within their organizations. And then you have a lot of options for identifying, like changing the interviewing practices. That's one of the recommendations we've made, right? So currently, if you're looking at the hiring practices, you have a job application, somebody submits a resume, it may or may not have the skills, or the candidate may or may not end up, in front of a recruiter or hiring manager. So why not include a cybersecurity project or like a project requirement in that? Because if the candidates don't have your job requirements, by showing you some of how they approach their critical thinking, how they're looking at projects, I think that would be a best way to identify if they're a fit for your organizations or not. And then look at the transferable, make an inventory. I think it requires a time investment from the hiring managers and the HR teams to understand what are some of the must-have skills, right? So make an inventory of what will be the transferable skills, and then the cultural fit, soft skills, and then look later on, like what are some of the hard skills we can train on and move forward. And provide work-based learning opportunities. We all heard for the past years, there's been a push for promoting work-based learning opportunities. I think peer-to-peer learning is very important. It doesn't have to be organized within the organizations. There's different programs out there where companies can participate and be a part of, and provide some mentorships to those students, and volunteer with the programs, provide advisory to the programs, what they're needing. So that way we have that inclusivity and coordination amongst ourselves, right? Because we can only teach what we hear from the organizations. And that will contribute to everyone, benefit and higher retentions and happier employees overall.
Fantastic. So I think what I want to do here is transition to question for Dean Markell. So I'm interested to learn, Dean Markell, from your perspective, what are some of the initiatives and programs led by the College of Business that are being used to address the skills gap that Julia has been speaking about?
Next slide. So I just also want to piggyback on what Julia was sharing a little bit, because as somebody who works in public service, there are some unique challenges. And again, in looking at who's on the call today, right, you might not have the capacity to say offer the same salaries as those in the private sector. And that's just a challenge I face every day. But what I think we need to better leverage is some of those intangibles or quality of life that one could have working in the public sector that might be different than the private sector. And so I know, for example, at the university, offering employees tuition reimbursement is a very attractive opportunity. Offering days that the university actually is closed, so no work is happening. When we think about the skill gap and the workforce challenges, we all are learning about how, as a community and as a world right now, everybody's striving for a better quality of life. And so, as Julia mentioned, folks are leaving cybersecurity altogether due to job burnout. So if we want to attract talent and keep them in the industry, we need to be better stewards of that talent once they come on board. So that's my only PS. And now I'll chat about what the College of Business has been doing. So as I mentioned, I've been dean for about 2 years. And in those 2 years, the college has really responded to our community's interest in building more workforce expertise in cybersecurity management. So that's distinct, obviously, from the engineer side of things. We're really looking at more of the policy, leadership, and administration of cybersecurity programs. And so we have programs both from undergraduate certificates, whether it's degree seeking or non-degree seeking. And often students are attracted to those programs if they want to upskill, next skill, reskill, through an emphasis for the undergraduates. Jonah can talk about, if he feels comfortable, sharing some of the coursework he's taking in the emphasis in cybersecurity management. And then the executive doctorate, which was just launched in fall of this past year. So next slide. So I just wanted to mention that we've developed an undergraduate certificate in cybersecurity management. And the college, with all of this program development, is really working to recruit leaders in the field who are actively engaged in research, connected with industry, partnering with funding agencies to build cutting edge instruction in this area. We can all appreciate that, you know, somebody learns some skills in this area and 3 months later, there's a whole new wave of opportunities or challenges that need to be addressed. So for example, our undergraduate certificate in cybersecurity management, it's really based on projects, developing core competencies, and then virtual labs where students have a lot of project work. We've also been very intentional in engaging these students who are often non-degree seeking. They may have a bachelor's degree already, but they want to pursue specific skill-based learning to learn more about what it's like to work in the industry. What are these occupations called, right? It's often a new language of, you know, what's a pen tester? I didn't know what that was until a few years ago. And are we also calling these roles similar, using similar titles across companies? I think that, you know, is something also as an employer to think about addressing is my job description and my job title really reflect the roles and responsibilities that I'm seeking to attract? I know students sometimes are like, I'm not sure if I'm qualified for this. And I'm always like, apply and you can figure, you know, someone else will figure that out for you. But sometimes the language in a job description precludes students from seeking those opportunities. So we've been really trying to educate our students in being more proactive and inclusive of seeking out job opportunities. Next slide. So I just wanted to mention our new executive doctorate in business administration. So this is the first EDBA in cybersecurity management at the University of Colorado system. And it's primarily, it's a hybrid program. And there's generally about 3 weekend residencies as part of the program. It's geared towards working professionals. When you think about an executive MBA program, it's a similar model. And then you have the opportunity to come to beautiful Colorado Springs a few times a semester. Next slide. So I don't want to take up too much more time. I know we've already talked more than we intended. But I think, Jonas, have I skipped over some of your questions?
I'll let you keep going.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I just got on a roll. But, you know, if you're really interested in learning more about our programs, about, you know, engaging with us, we have active advisory boards. Obviously, as Dean of the College of Business, I'm always looking for additional opportunities for our students, whether it's part-time employment, full-time employment, project-based work. We really want to get our students engaged with employers in this industry. And we also are building professional educational opportunities to reskill your own talent. So if you have current employees that you're looking to further develop. We also can build and deliver professional education for your organizations. Julie and I have included our email addresses, so don't hesitate to reach out. Questions?
While we're waiting for some questions here to come through the chat, anyone who is listening here, please ask any questions that you have. I got one more question for you. So how can people who are employers themselves or community organizations support the cybersecurity workforce development effort and initiatives at UCCS and in general? What can they do from their side?
Well, my perspective is really engage, and then engage some more, because there's so much information out there and everybody's trying to manage their communication flow. So if you're an employer that's actively seeking to build talent, you can't ignore any opportunity where you might just have the ability to get in front of a group of interested professionals, whether that's students, engaging with your local professional organization. I've just seen that in my own work in the community. People are starving to connect around the challenges in this area, and being a part of the conversation is really, really helpful. And we would love to have you be a part of our conversation. We're really dedicated to helping the national workforce problems in cybersecurity management.
We've got a question here from Angela. She's requesting to go back to the UCCS slide with the 4 programs available now.
Sure.
And this is a note to everybody. We will be sharing the slides out with everyone who registered and attended. So they'll be available to you after the webinar once we get the recording up and ready to send out as well. But I'll ask, Angela, did you have a specific question on the slide here that either Dean Markell or Julia can answer?
Angela, I'll also share, and I know I neglected to do that. I mentioned that our executive program is a hybrid format, but all of the other programs are available in an online format. So if you are calling in or dialing in or logging in, I guess is the correct word, remotely, know that our programs are available virtually.
We have a question here from Kimberly Delafosse on what was the approximate cost to launch the cybersecurity program at UCCS? Did the city of Colorado Springs offer financial support towards this endeavor?
Which program is that? Is there any specificity?
I'll hand that back to Kimberly. If you could expand upon that question there, then we could definitely get you an answer.
I mean, I'll just share with you, as a university that has a regional mission, we try and look towards opportunities and curriculum that help serve our regional community. So the college has a history of developing programs that reflect our workforce needs. And so this is just another example of how the college has been able to do that and really leverage resources to put this as a higher priority. For example, recruiting faculty to teach in these courses, and looking at emerging fields and where we need to be going, rather than just doing what we've been doing. So, you know, we work in close partnership with the city, and NCC and the university are you know, we really work collaboratively and support each other. So there wasn't any deliberate or intentional financial support from the city, that I'm aware of, but that also could have predated my arrival. So I don't know if I can really, speak definitively about that.
All right, I'll give one more call for questions here. Do any of the attendees have any final questions for our panelists? All right, with that, we have a question from Angela here. I'll wait for that to come in, but I'll say to Julia or Dean Markell, do either of you have any, while we're waiting for the question to come in, just any closing or additional remarks on the topic here?
Well, I just want to say that we welcome the opportunity to be a partner in helping you build your cyber workforce pipeline. We know that it's very, very challenging, highly competitive. And, personally, I can appreciate working in the public sector. We're often not the most competitive employer, and we have to be creative in how we attract and retain our talent. So if there's anything that the College of Business can do to support that, we are highly engaged in this work and look forward to figuring out ways that we can better support your needs. And so I think just another opportunity, if people want to throw into the chat, is if you have ideas for future sessions, that would also be helpful as well. But I just want to thank everybody for getting on the call today. And of course, thank our partners at NCC for our work together.
Well, we've got a great question here, and I spoke too soon in terms of closing remarks because I know there's probably going to be more coming from this. But question from Angela is there the CyberCore Scholarship for Service program available with any of the programs at UCCS?
Julia, do you know the answer to that?
I think there is, but I don't want to speak before I check internally with our departments, but I will send a list of all of the scholarships available. It's available on our website, as well as regarding like how much investment we've done to build cybersecurity programs. There's a page on our website called Cybersecurity Initiatives at UCCS, and that covers everything college-wide initiatives that are working to improve cybersecurity, programs, what type of investments and so on. So I think that will, provide more insights into how we got here. As far as closing remarks on my side, I just want to thank everyone for being here today. It's a great opportunity to dive into conversations like this. But my goal is for future not to have just, a conversation where we provide insights. I want to hear from the audience, right? Because I want to learn what are the pain points, what are the certain challenges, or what are the things they're doing great and they're having successes within their community, their organizations, where we can learn from, and then where we can actually adapt our programs and our initiatives to actually be more intentional and address this cybersecurity skills gap we have. So I appreciate everyone's input and feel free to send me ideas. I'm always open to collaborate.
Excellent. And I'll wrap it up here from the NCC side. We're very excited to have this as our first webinar in a series of webinars on the topic of building the cyber workforce pipeline. We're going to have 4 webinars throughout the remainder of the year on this topic. So we'd love to hear from any of the attendees today on future talking points or topics of conversation that you'd like to hear from Dean Markell or Julia on here to speak on. We will be sending out the recording of the webinar today, as well as the slides and then the additional information that was requested on some of those questions. And we'll send that out within the next week or so to all the attendees once we have all that information and the recordings put together. This is an invitation here to join us for future Morning Byte of Cyber webinars on different topics. We host these on the 3rd and 4th Thursday of every month If you were invited here today, you're on our mailing list. So look out for webinars on other topics. We'd love for you to join us and engage when we're talking about specific cybersecurity skills topics, whether it be asset management or working with network monitoring, or it's something that's specific to, since we are based in Colorado, we do have some Colorado focused webinars on challenges unique to our state. And then some more general topics that are that we talk about with our partners here, like workforce development. So I hope everyone has a great rest of your day, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.